Today, I'm reviewing the Incredi-coaster, the iconic roller coaster at Disney California Adventure at the Disneyland Resort in California. And this is a very uncharacteristic roller coaster for Disney. Rather than being a highly themed coaster experience, such as Big Thunder Mountain or Expedition Everest, Incredi-coaster just sort of exists. It more or less is just a thrill coaster. In fact, I believe this is the tallest roller coaster Disney has ever built. And it's also one of the longest roller coasters in the entire world. It comes in at a staggering 6,072 feet in length. This makes Incredi-coaster the 9th longest roller coaster in the world. Designed to look like a classic boardwalk coaster, Incredi-coaster is located in the very back of the park, alongside the water, as part of Pixar Pier. And Disney fans will probably remember that this coaster actually opened with California Adventure in 2001 as California Screamin. In 2018, the coaster was rethemed as the Incredi-coaster when Paradise Pier was converted into Pixar Pier, and was the overlay a positive. I'm mixed. On one hand, I really like the musical score for California Screamin, and it pains me to see that gone. Incredi-coaster still has a musical score, but it's more generic and gives way to narration throughout the ride. However, Incredi-coaster is improved in every other way. It's nice the ride tries to tell a story now like every other attraction at Disney. It's a pretty loose story. Basically, the Incredibles are having an old roller coaster dedicated to them, but Jack escapes, and the Incredibles have to track him down, but it's a story nonetheless. Now, the coaster still feels more or less like something you'd find at a traditional amusement park, but this little story is a step up, a small step up. Incredi-coaster is an absolute capacity machine. At its optimal capacity, I believe it dispatches a 24-person train every 30 or 40 seconds. That equates to a theoretical capacity in excess of 2,160 riders per hour. Few coasters can come close to matching that. For that reason, the queue flies. And that's especially true if you nab a fast pass. The coaster does have a single rider line, but I typically don't use it since the early morning fast passes have an almost immediate return time. In terms of seats, I have a slight preference for the front, and that's for the launch and the views. But the back does have superior airtime on the larger drops, so both are worth experiencing. Moving on to the coaster, the Incredi-coaster begins with a launch. Now, the actual force of this launch is decent, but what really makes it stand out are all the little pluses that accompany it. Once you take off, there are all these water bursts along the side of the track to simulate dash running. And gunshots play in the onboard audio to up the tension. This really makes a decent launch stand out. You then rocket over the first hill. In the front, you get a nice pop of airtime. In the back, you get some nice floater airtime on the drop. You then spread around this big turnaround. And this is where I want to note that the ride has over-the-shoulder restraints, so it's possible to hit your head every once in a while on this ride. But as a whole, it's pretty smooth. You then dive back towards the ground and head up the ride's largest hill. You actually stall out and then start ascending it much like a lift hill. At this point, you've probably noticed all the big drops are enclosed in a tunnel. These were added in the California Screamin days to protect nearby residents from the screams. But when it was converted to Incredi-coaster, they got some show scenes. You then dive back towards the ground, getting some nice floater airtime in the back, and go around another turnaround. You then line up towards the vertical loop. And this loop is actually pretty forceful. However, it has a nasty rattle to it. You won't hit your head, but you'll definitely feel it. You then rise up and go through another brake run, and go down another sizable drop, getting more airtime in the back. You then wrap around another turnaround. After you go around this turnaround, you go up and into yet another brake run. After you come off this brake run, you go over a few bunny hills. And these bunny hills give a tiny bit of airtime. Nothing crazy, but you get some airtime. You then go into the final helix. This helix doesn't really have any force to it, but because you're deep within the ride's support structure, it feels like you're going a lot faster than you actually are. You then hit the brakes coming to the end of the ride. I purposefully showed the nighttime on-ride video. I strongly recommend trying Incredi-coaster at night. It's worth riding in the day as well, but at night you get to see a really cool lighting package, and several of the tunnel effects are much easier to see. That's particularly true on Violet's tunnel. So what do I rate the Incredi-coaster? I'd give it an 8 out of 10. This is a really fun roller coaster. It has a launch, some big drops, a forceful loop, and some airtime. Plus, it has a loose story to try to give it a little bit of Disney magic. This is probably the most intense coaster at the Disneyland Resort. But is it my favorite? No. I do prefer Space Mountain. And as far as overall rides go at the Disneyland Resort, Incredicoaster may just barely make my top 10. It's a good roller coaster, but I prefer Disney's more conventional, highly themed experiences. That's why I go to Disneyland. So, those are my thoughts on the Incredicoaster. Do you agree or disagree with them? Have you been on this famous roller coaster? I'd love to hear your thoughts below. Stay tuned for more content here at Canopy Coaster, and thanks for listening.